Praise the Lord. A very good day to all of you. And I'm sure all of you are really enjoying this season of Lent, a beautiful season. And perhaps you might be wondering, why I am asking that if you are enjoying this season. It's supposed to be a season of suffering, reflecting on the sufferings of Jesus, and it's supposed to be a season of fasting and prayer and penance and almsgiving and so on. So apparently it looks like it may not be a season when I can be happy or I can rejoice. So how can this question be answered? But definitely, you know that we believe that this season is a season of grace. It's a season of God's love, God's mercy flowing into our hearts. This does not mean that God's love or mercy does not flow into our hearts at the other days or the other seasons of the year, but this time is much more special to us as we reflect on the passion of Christ through which God saved you and me and opened the paradise for us. So the reason for our happiness or joy, in spite of the pain that perhaps we might experience when we make penance or fast, or even as we keep reflecting on the passion of Jesus, we must remember this passion is meant to bring joy. This passion Jesus took upon himself so that you and I can be eternally happy with him in heaven. Therefore, we need to be happy, we need to be joyful even when we take upon these practices of penance or fasting or reflect on the passion of Jesus. That is the goal of the passion of Christ. And as I said, this is a time when we enjoy God's mercy, we enjoy his love, and we come more close to him. And this is a season or time when God is inviting us for a change, for a conversion of our own heart, our own life. Now, I would like to reflect with you based on this, because as God, the Father, as his Son Jesus, as a Spirit, as they invite us, as God invites us to experience his love, experience his mercy, I think we can reflect on something, where we tangibly, visibly, and very personally feel this love and mercy of God so close to us through a scripture, the parable, that is the parable of the prodigal son. All of us are very familiar with this parable. Sometimes it's said the parable of the lost son or the parable of the prodigal son. Now, in this parable, we see how you and I get caught up in sin, and then what we need to do so that we can enjoy God's mercy. So first of all, the reality of sin is in the world. That is, the sin is real. It does affect us. We are fragile. We are weak human beings. We do become victims of sin. But the story does not end there. There is something beyond there. This is what we need to believe, and that is the good news. We need to believe in, and we need to proclaim. And what is that good news? And what is that reality of sin? When we look at this parable of the prodigal son, what we see there is this young man, the younger son, gets attracted by the world outside. Something attracts him, and he feels that he's drawn by the world, and therefore what he's asking is his father, now I want to enjoy that attraction outside. I want to go and taste and see the world outside. So what that you need to do is, he's asking the father, telling the father, give me the share of the property that belongs to me, so that I can leave you and I can go and enjoy what I want to enjoy, the attraction that is drawing me. So the father gives the property, he takes the property, he goes out into the world. And what happens there is that he squanders all that the father gave him, spends on all the sinful things. He enjoys his life, but soon he realizes this enjoyment, this joy, this attraction was very short-lived. The money is gone, the power is gone, and therefore he finds himself now, everything is disappearing. People have left, the friends who joined him, enjoyed with him, gave him company, promised so many things. Now all have left, nothing in his hand. He even goes hungry. If not the famine in the world or in the country outside, but he faces famine in his own personal life. Nothing to eat. And finally we find in the story, he goes and he wants to be hired, and he's hired by a landowner, and he puts him to work in among the pigs, the swine herd. So he has to take care of them, and even he fights there. The word says, the parable tells us, he fights with the pigs to eat the pods that were provided for the swine, and even that he was not able to eat. It is at that moment we find that he comes to his senses. Coming to his senses, he thought. So, coming to his senses. Now, up to this level, I would like to see what has happened in the life of this young man, so that we also will be able to find what is happening in our own life, or is it happening, or has happened, or the reality of how the sin works. Sin first always has this first dimension of attraction. Sin is attractive. It attracts. Or the devil or Satan attracts. Through all, he knows the mechanisms, the means through which to attract. And then what happens is, second is, after the attraction, he isolates. How does he isolate? Now, in order to enjoy that sin or the attraction outside, the glamour outside, you find in this story, he asks the father, give your property, the property that belongs to me, so that I may go away alone. Isolation. So the sin, the attraction of the evil, the sin, in fact leads to isolation from the father, and then when he enjoys there, a time being, a short enjoyment, and after that immediately everybody again leaves. All the friends and everyone who are with him to enjoy his money and his power, his goodness, all have gone, and now again he's alone. So sin not only attracts, but it isolates from God, from the Father. He isolates from the Father, and then from everyone, from neighbors, from all. In much more than that, even isolation from his own self. He feels estranged. He feels he's not home with himself. So he's not at home with the Father. He's not at home with his friends or the neighbors. He's not at home with his own self. He feels now, that's where he says, now I need to go back to my Father. He coming to his senses. He thought, how many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat, but here am I dying from hunger. He realizes that when he comes to his senses, he realizes how the sin has attracted him, how the sin has isolated him, how the sin has separated him from the love of the Father, and then now he's dying in hunger. And much more than that, when he says, when I go, I shall get up and go to my father, and I shall say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. So the deepest painful moment here is, he even lost his identity as a son. He lost his identity. He feels not even worthy to be called as a son. Now his heart is, I will ask my father to accept him as one of his hired workers. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers. That is his mind. He feels so estranged. He feels so isolated. I cannot be even called as a son. So I lost that dignity of being called a son. The relationship is broken. This, my dear brothers and sisters, is very, very important. Coming to senses, becoming aware of what has happened, and accepting one's status as gone away from God, as sinful, accepting our mistake, our sin, and then making a decision. So first of all, he comes to senses, he realizes his mistake, he accepts his mistake, and then makes a decision. I shall get up and go. I will get up and go to my father, and then I will tell him that I have sinned against heaven and against you. Sin against the love of God, against the love of neighbor. And then he goes, he doesn't stop there. So he makes a decision, he gets up and he goes. And what happens there is something fantastic. Now before we go even to there, and another second level of reflection for us would be here, my dear brothers and sisters, we see in our own life how we are also attracted by sin. Maybe the wealth outside, money outside, power outside, maybe flesh, maybe attracted to a person, maybe the drugs, or any beauty of this world. Something attracts us and we are drawn by it, and then we leave God, we leave family, we go after it, and soon we realize it's all short-lived when something happens to us. And soon we realize, or sometimes even takes time, some of us realize even at our old age, when everything we have enjoyed, then suddenly we realize, what has happened to me, where I am, when everything is gone, my beauty is gone, my money is gone, my power is gone. Now I feel left alone by the people outside. I am spending time, alone, now estranged from God, from my brothers and sisters or my neighbors, and now again from my own self separated. I feel the pain of loneliness. And here, most of the times, if we come to our senses, God is inviting us, come to the senses. Realize the situation, acknowledge and accept your own mistake and sin, so that you can make a decision to go back to God, to come back to God. That is what God is waiting for. But most of the times today, what is happening is, mostly all of us, we do not accept our own sinfulness. We do not acknowledge our own sinfulness. Even if we come to senses, we stop at that level. I realize my mistake, I realize my sinfulness, but I don't want to go back to God. It's because I am denying. I realize something has gone wrong in my life, but I don't even accept sin in my life. I live in a spirit of, or in a spirit of denial. This is the biggest sin today. I deny, this is not sin, that is not sin, it's okay, it's fine. I'm trying to cover up all my guilt. I know there is guilt. Something is wrong with me. Something has gone wrong in my life. Instead of owning up and accepting it, instead of going back to God, I'm trying to defend myself. I'm trying to justify myself. I'm trying to reason out myself and say that, no, everything is fine, everything is okay. I'm trying to cover my guilt and my pain. And as a result, what happens? Most of the times, our brothers and sisters, they feel isolated, and because of that loneliness, they feel unloved, unwanted, and they feel depressed, and finally they think there is no meaning in life and therefore give up life, suicide. Many are battling this in their life. Many our brothers and sisters are, after having spent their life in the reckless way, away from God, now they are confronted with their own guilt and pain and shame. Now they are saying that, now I am depressed, I am lonely, I want to give up my life, contemplating suicide. And this is the trick of the devil. This is the plan of the devil. He attracts us to sin so that he can isolate us from God, he can isolate us from one another, so that he can destroy us. Jesus said, the thief comes to steal and kill. And the thief is the devil. He comes to steal us from God, from his love, separate us from his love, so that he can isolate us and he can kill us. And at the moment, many are going through this depression and pain and isolation and loneliness and contemplate suicide. My dear brothers and sisters, this parable is a beautiful parable which tells us it's not enough to become aware, but make a decision. Today God is inviting you to make a decision in your life. I will get up like this young man. I shall get up, I shall go to my Father, and I will acknowledge, Lord, I have sinned against you and against my brothers and sisters. Once we do that, what is the result of the Father? While the Son is going to the Father, now he says, while he was still a long way off, his Father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his Son, embraced him, kissed him, and he said, and then the Son is telling him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. You know what the Father is doing? But his Father ordered his servants, quickly bring the finest robe, let him put on the robe, put a ring on his finger, put on the new sandals on his feet, take the fatted calf and slaughter it. Let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead, now he has come to life again. This son of mine was lost, now he has been found. Therefore, let us celebrate. This is our God. This is our God. Our God is waiting for you and for me. The moment we come to him, he runs to us. He embraces us. He kisses us. Because he's full of compassion, he's full of mercy. And he says his Father caught sight of him because he was waiting every day, every moment of the Father's life for the return of the son or the daughter. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, God is waiting for you and for me. When will my son come back? When will my daughter come back? He's waiting for you so that he can run to you, embrace you and kiss you. And he wants to show how compassionate he is. And what he does is he does not, though he confesses his sins, the Father does not ask anything about his sins. He's not bothered about where you have been, how you have been. He's not going to ask an account of, and to make you feel more ashamed and sinful. But what he does is immediately, he doesn't bother about what the Son is saying. He says, quickly bring the finest robe. Put on him. All that. The robe, the ring, the sandal, it all symbolizes, the dignity of a son is given back. Because the Father knew the Son is feeling the pain of, I don't even feel or worthy to be called as a son. But the Father is reaffirming, as long as you have come back, you are my son. You are my son. So what is the sign of a son? A good robe, a ring, sign of authority, a sandal. Not only that, I'm celebrating. You are dead, you're alive. You were lost, you're found. The Father celebrates with everyone. This is exactly what God is waiting for you and for me to do, my dear brothers and sisters. So let's become aware of this. How sin attracts, how sin isolates, how sin destroys. But the story doesn't end there. If any of you find yourself in this situation, do not give up. This is not God's plan that you suffer. God understands you. Now this is the day, this is the time. Even today, at this very moment, if you realize, if you are ready to come back, God is waiting for you. God is waiting for you. God is inviting you. So if you make a decision today, come back to God. He wants to embrace you and kiss you. He wants to celebrate your coming back home. And He says, I have come, you may have life in fullness. I have come not for the healthy and the righteous. I have come for the sick and sinners. Our God is a loving God. Our God is a merciful God. He's full of compassion. His grace is overflowing. He's inviting you. Do not delay. Come and enjoy His love and mercy. He awaits your return. May God bless you. Amen.